Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Tonight is Tuesday, June 1st. It is the Planning Zoning Commission public hearing and general meeting. It's about 7:30 p.m. We are conducting this meeting via GoToMeeting, and also Jeremy Ginsburg, the Planning Zoning Director, and myself are here in Town Hall in room 213. Okay. Tonight, we're going to start with a public hearing, and the first item on the agenda is a continuation of a public hearing regarding the proposed amendments to the Darien Zoning Regulations, COZR number 1-2021, put forth by Parklands Darien LLC, Darien's, LLC. I don't need to read it, right? Is there a third night on this thing?
Yeah, this is the third night on this application.
Okay. This is, this is the third night on this application. We had public testimony last meeting. We had the applicant speak at the last meeting. And since the last meeting, the applicant submitted a 3-page document, self-explanatory with questions and answers to himself or to us, which I think we all got. I know we all got in our packets and we all read. Before we go any further, Kara Gately, is this the one that you're recused on? Yes, she's smiling. Okay, so Kara Gately's recused on this one.
Yep.
You're more than welcome to stay. That's fine. I think you're fine, Kara.
Okay.
That's
or you
okay.
can just shut the camera off and.
Sure.
Yeah, you can shut your camera off, but do whatever. That's fine.
Okay, I'll shut my camera off, and then when you're done with this one, I'll just turn it back on.
Right.
Okay.
Great, thank you. Okay, so the applicant is Mr. William Hennessy. You're here. We kept this open for another meeting, I think, at your request. Jeremy, am I missing anything from?
No, I think what we were going to do tonight, the purpose tonight is to receive any last comments from any members of the public. You may recall the last meeting was pretty much dedicated to public comment. We had received a number of items, letters and emails, which are in the file. The only new item, as you mentioned, is Mr. Hennessy's closing remarks and summary. So I guess what we can do is start with any members of the public who didn't get to speak last time, give them a final chance, and then Mr. Hennessy can give his closing remarks.
Okay, did we get any emails or letters in the last week?
No, nothing from the public. The only thing we got was from Mr. Hennessy.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, with that said, is anyone from the general public would like to speak to this application, which is the continuation of public hearing related to the zoning change COZR number 1 put forth by Parklands Darien LLC? So Fred, if you could monitor the chat box with anybody.
Then if there's any commission members, we'll go to them.
Okay, any commission members have anything to add to this? I'm assuming that everyone read the document already. Does anybody have any questions on the document directly to Mr. Hennessy or the applicant? Okay, I think we're good there. Mr. Hennessy, welcome. The public has spoken, the commissioners have spoken, and we received your applicant's closing remarks and summary. You're welcome to add anything you would like before we try to close the hearing. I think you're on mute, or you might not be on mute. I can't hear you, I know that. We have a lousy connection tonight. Let's see, Phil. Craig Flaherty, can you hear me?
I can hear you. For whatever reason, it sounds like Bill's audio is not coming through. His mic's not working.
His green light is on. Fred, can you hear Mr. Hennessy?
No, I can't.
Okay.
Well, maybe we'll give him another minute to work out any technical issues, and if not, I can jump in for the applicant and close. But he's trying to figure it out right now.
Mr. Hennessy,
Okay.
you also have the option to join by calling in on the phone.
Can you put that phone number in the chat box if he needs to see it, Fred? I think it's 1-800.
It's an 872-240-3212.
I'll put it in the chat box.
Thank you, George.
I'm just reading Jeremy's memo, the yellow memo.
Right.
872-240-3212.
Come on, gosh.
That's what it is. Oh, wow. Fred's got a big thing there. That was kind of cool.
Yes, then you need an access code of 209-600-789.
Trustee Styling, there we go.
Yeah, it looks like he's dialing on the cell phone.
Here's still just,
We have caller 1, caller 2, caller 3. He's still dialing. I promise you we'll be in person before July.
we're trying.
I'm trying. We're gonna shoot for September 1st. That's when the rest of the world's opening.
Yeah, I think they haven't started on fixing it up and everything. If we can get some applications where we're not expecting 100 people, I think that would make
This
sense.
caller
Can you hear me now?
5.
There he is.
Yes, we can, sir.
Well, I've lost the video, but I have the audio. And to
Just gotta
remove
Bill,
the
mute your
feedback,
computer.
I'll log off.
and then speak right through the telephone.
Yeah, he does.
Okay, give me 1 second.
Oh boy.
Or should he just quit out?
Craig, you might have to pinch hit. He's got an echo.
You there, Bill?
Still getting the feedback? Yeah, I'm going to log off of the meeting. That should be better?
There you go.
Yep, you sound
Much
good.
better.
Okay. Well, I can't see anyone, and I apologize for that. I don't know what the problem is, and I'm not very gifted at these Zoom meetings. But this makes me especially happy that we decided to give you our summation and responses to the neighbors' comments in writing well before the hearing. We're very aware of the fact that this is the third night of this hearing and that we've taken a lot of your time on this application, especially given the fact that it was on this night was on the heels of a 3-day weekend. We thought it would be most useful to you if we could, collect our thoughts, organize our thoughts, give them to you in a concise way so you could consider them well before having to sit here on a Zoom meeting. And we hope that you have been able to understand our position with respect to comments made. We tried to do it in a question and answer format that was short and concise and got our point across. And our summation is just really a reminder of what we talked about on the first evening, that the touchstone from a legal point of view of the rationale or reasons why you should consider to approve this or deny this the proposed tax change is really rooted in what's in your town plan of conservation and development. And we've explained it to you in detail through Craig's initial submittal, his Exhibit E, I think it was. And we explained it to you through the presentations we've delivered through both Craig and I. And most recently, we've explained it to you, I hope you'll agree, concisely in our summation given to you last Thursday. We don't have anything to add to that. We have only become, the more we read the POCD, we've become more and more convinced that this is the right application for the right time. And we began the night, the first night of this hearing by talking about your March 2020 2 decades look back on multifamily development and affordable housing in Darien. And we all were, I think, kind of impressed by the progress the town has made. And I think you should, if you don't, should feel proud of the progress. It's been a very, very thoughtful, directed step at each point where you were aware that the housing modalities maybe weren't correct or the prices weren't correct. The town has very thoughtfully and purposely taken a step in a direction that increased the diversity of housing and the affordability and the bands of affordability. And we think that this application before you is just another step in that direction, another thoughtful step. And for all those reasons, we'd ask that you approve it. I will say one thing that I think is there's something a little tricky, and it's going to require, I think, staff's help in maybe just organizing as you go forward. The portion of our application that deals with parking takes your existing parking standard, which is 2.5 spaces per multifamily unit, really regardless of size, and attempts to, I would say, modernize it and take into consideration unit size and the number of spaces. And it results in what we think is a very, very safe, comfortable parking ratio, given the different sizes of units. Shortly after we filed our application, you, of course, filed your application, your own application, which reduces the parking standards even below what we had proposed. We think that since they're sort of tracking at the same, you need to give some special thought into, which one you're comfortable with and how and when you decide, if you decide to approve either of them. And then thrown in the mix, just to make this a completely unique situation, I was given a copy today of the House Bill 6107, which interestingly creates a modified standard for multifamily housing throughout the state of Connecticut and imposes it on towns, but creates a kind of an odd situation where a town, through votes of its Planning and Zoning Commission and its Board of Selectmen, can choose to opt out of that lower situation. Now, conveniently, the lower standard proposed, or some might say imposed, by the state legislature is exactly the same as the standards that you have put in your proposed text change. So if this legislation is in fact signed by the governor and does in fact become law, which many people believe will happen, I suppose the imposition of the standard might be obviated if you were to adopt your own regulation. So it's just a tricky, unusual, very unusual, in my experience, issue that has to be dealt with on a procedural basis as to when you approve or disapprove, and if you choose to approve, which regulation you approve and when. So I'll just leave that to better minds than I to orchestrate. But let me just ask if there's any further questions by any commission member. We're all here, the entire team is here, and we're happy to answer.
Okay, thank you, Bill. I appreciate that. We're also going to check with the public again. Chairman, you want to make any comments first?
Sure. I just wanted to reiterate for the commission, Mr. Hennessy's correct that you really have the proposal on parking put forth by the Parklands group here, and you have a proposal that you put forth, and the public hearing on that will be next Tuesday. And as Mr. Hennessy noted, the third proposal, if you think of it that way, is what's going on in Hartford. That's on the governor's desk for his possible signature. And that is very similar to your proposal as a commission. And so as we start getting into that, you'll have to distinguish between the various proposals. That is one unusual aspect here, is that this isn't standing alone. We have those other proposals, if you will, that are also to be considered and are a factor, certainly.
Right. The other thing I want to add to that is, remember, what we're talking about is minimum parking.
Right.
A lot of developers that I know, including I think at Baywater, they put in more parking that's required because they wanted their apartments that were 3 bedrooms to have at least 2 or 3 apartment spaces. I mean, parking spaces.
That's
Sure,
a great
Plus in
point.
condominiums, you can sell them too.
Well,
Yeah,
all we're
I mean, it's a
talking about,
minimum. You can put more. Right.
Right.
Anybody public or no?
Yeah, unless there's anyone from the public who may have showed up late. If not, we can close the hearing.
Any commissioner? Larry, your microphone's on. Do you want to add something?
Just a quick question, and I know we'll get briefed on the details of the bill later. Is most of Fairmead within the quarter mile, or excuse me, half mile or a quarter mile of the business district? I think it may be.
It may be. That is my understanding, is no longer part of the pending legislation in Hartford.
Yeah,
Okay.
So that aspect of the desegregate CT proposal did not get approved by the House or the Senate. So at this point, we would not need to consider that.
Question then. Thank you.
Question. No. Imran.
Simran, go ahead, sir.
When is by when must this application be acted upon?
Once you close the hearing, you have 65 days to make a decision on an application put forth, in this case by an applicant, on your proposal. When the commission puts forth their own proposal, there is no time limit. So you would have, if the hearing closes tonight, you would have basically till August 4th or 5th to deliberate and decide this application.
Now, because this is a text amendment relationship, if we don't act on it, does it pass by default?
No.
Okay, that's something different. All right.
We expect that whatever shakes out of Hartford will shake out within the next 2 to 3 weeks.
And that's probably, that was targeted to be enacted as of October 1st, right?
Right. The proposed effective date of that legislation regarding parking is October 1st of this year.
Let's just stay on task though for this.
The reason for my question is I'd like to avoid any time or timing issues for the approvals and the decisions that we may have to make depending on whether we approve it or not, in terms of, are we going to opt out? Are we going to, and if we close the hearing today, we've got 60 days or 65 days. If we don't hear from Hartford until that time runs out, then where are we? I'm just trying to think
I don't
ahead.
think the opt out. Relative to the opt-in, opt-out provision, I don't think that has to be enacted by October 1st. I think the legislation goes in and there's a period of time after that. But we'll get into it later in the chairman's report. We're going to get a synopsis on that bill, hopefully on June 15th. Okay, but it's
2 weeks from today.
Yeah, 2 weeks from today. I saw Matt Blumenthal over the weekend and Terry Wood over the weekend.
Okay, thanks.
Any
Just
other
a
commission
tidbit.
members? Questions?
Just a tidbit, and I don't know the answer to this, but I expect the governor has to act within some period of time, less than 65 days, probably 30 days to sign or not. So if it's on his desk already, that clock is ticking.
Right.
Yep.
Can you folks hear me now?
Yes.
It's my understanding that the governor is poised to act favorably upon this. So, George, I think you're right. I think, and as you read through this bill, there's many questions as there are answers. It's dense. So I think you'd be very well served to have somebody, parse it apart and try to figure out what it all means. That would be a great idea.
Okay. With that said, I think we're in good shape. Just double checking one last time. Is anyone from the general public want to speak on this application before we close it? Or look for a motion to close? Seeing
It's
none, hearing none. Okay, with that said.
It's Sandra Conway. I did submit
Hello?
two questions.
Oh, in the chat box?
I actually sent it via email. So I'll just,
Why don't you?
I just have two questions. The first one is, can the zoning overlay apply to specific property? Can you hear me?
Just for the record, Sarah, it's just for the record, Sarah Conway, and you live on Fairmead, I think, is that right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, great.
Can the zoning overlay
Go ahead,
apply?
I'm sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Can the zoning overlay apply to specific properties, or does it have to be done to all designated office zones?
Well, the proposal is for it's to create a zoning district that could land on all those zones. So that is possible, but an applicant would need to come in and specifically say, I want to take that specific zoning district and put it on my property.
It's like a DOs.
Yes.
Okay, and then my second question was, instead of an overlay, can an actual rezoning that keeps residential limits be applied instead?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
So when I looked at the proposal that for 3 Parklands, and I looked at the future land use plan, I noticed that in that proposal, in that section, 3 Parklands is actually the only property that borders low density housing, open space, and natural resource restrictions. All the other office zones do not butt up against housing, a natural resource. So this is the only property that is like that. And I was just wondering, and I'm not sure how this vote works, or can you eliminate 3 Parklands for that zoning so they cannot take the office zoning in this area?
You are correct that the commission could approve this zoning amendment, and then when the applicant returns to put the
I can't hear you.
We lost Jeremy.
zoning amendment on the property and
You
comes
gotta
in
go
for a
back 30
special permit
seconds,
and site plan, yes, that
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll try to answer that the best I can.
Okay.
Yes, the commission could act to create this zoning district. And when the applicant returns to take this zoning district and apply it to this property, and they come in with all the plans for the actual building, the commission could deny the applicability of that zone to this specific property, and they could deny the site plan. That is a possibility, yes.
Okay. So is this vote tonight, would you vote for that type of zoning automatically because it's automatically?
let me explain how it's going to work, Ms. Conway.
Okay,
If the hearing closes, if the commission votes to close the hearing tonight, they're basically voting to say that there will be taking no more testimony, no more letters, no more emails, no more comments. And that starts the 65-day deliberation period where they can deliberate at a meeting, discuss it amongst the 5 commission members. And then at one meeting, they will take a vote. They need a majority to pass. I'll have to double check. Maybe they need 4 out of 5, but I'll have to double check whether it's 3 or 4 out of 5. If that passes, they'll set an effective date for this new regulation change, the establishment of this new zone in town. And then the applicant can decide to proceed with the actual details or not. Or someone else in a DO zone could apply to put it onto their property. So there will be no voting tonight on this application.
okay,
And even at a subsequent meeting, the commission will only be deliberating.
okay. Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
It does. I think what I was trying to understand is can the committee
Okay, you're gonna have 2
Decide.
years on.
to eliminate 3 Parklands, that area, due to its location and the way it's butting up against 3 different things that you usually look at to eliminate that type of building.
Right, there are a number of DO designed office zones in town, which the applicant discussed during the first hearing, and that's all part of the record. Certainly, this is the only one next to a rest stop. There's no doubt about that. It's the only one next to Selleck's Woods. There's no doubt about that. But the standard in the regulations is whether the commission, how they vote on this is consistency with the town plan. And that's the standard they'll have to look at.
Okay. Thank you for your time.
Not hearing you, Steve. No,
And I'm on now. You're off. Am I back? Am I back on now?
Yes.
All right. Sorry about that. We're having a tough day tonight. Okay. With that said, I would entertain a motion to close. I think we heard from general public and the applicant who are ready to close this. Jim Rand makes the motion. Looking for a second.
Jennifer Leahy,
Jen Leahy's a second. All those in favor?
close the hearing. Yep.
Close the
5-0.
hearing.
Great.
5-0. Great.
We thank you very much for all your time.
Can someone let, you're welcome, Mr. Hennessy. We're going to let Kara Gately. No.
I like it. You always give me a new name. It's Jennifer. Now I'm Kara Gregory. Sports mom with whatever.
I'm fine, man.
How am I today?
Fine. Maybe it's the haircut. All right. Next item up for bid. Coastal Site Plan Review number 346A is an Apple. Flood dam prevention application number 400 A is an Apple. Land filling and regrading application number 502. James Peterson and Claudia Yvette Quintanilla at 218 Long Neck Point Road. Proposal to construct a new single-family dwelling with a partially connected garage and a detached guest cottage, a new pool, a pool house, associated terraces, a new driveway area, retaining walls, stormwater management on a now vacant lot, and perform related site development activities within regulated areas. The 2.81 plus or minus acres subject property is located on the west side of Long Neck Point Road, approximately 0.3 miles south of its intersection with Pear Tree Point Road, and is shown on Assessor's map number 61 is lot 16 in the R1 zone. Jeremy, what do we got?
Here, this is the application for the Zangrillo property, which was divided into two pieces a few years ago. This is the southernmost of those two pieces. As part of this application in your package, you received a May 12, 2021 memo from the state of Connecticut DEP, Jamie Sidoriak. It's in your package, it's in the record. I won't read the whole thing.
Sure.
2 pages. We have some comments from Public Works, but basically this is a new house on a what's now vacant property. And I'll let Bob Maslin and his team take it from here.
And, Mr. Dawson, where are you? There he is. Welcome, sir.
Good evening. Welcome back from the long weekend. It wasn't very nice weather, but we're all here. Fred, can you give me the screen? All right.
Oh, I'll unmute myself.
We there? Can you see my PowerPoint?
Yeah, we see it, Bob.
Oh, okay. All right. Steve's got his thumb up. Good. Good evening, everyone. My name is Robert Maslin. I represent the applicants. This property is one of the 2 properties that were created from the Zangrillo property on the west side of Long Neck Point Road. This is the second to be developed. Right now, it is vacant. The team consists of Bob Cardello, the architect, Doug DeVesta for the civil engineering, Cheryl Brown, James Doyle, design architects for the landscape architecture, and I guess I'm the band leader here. I've submitted this PowerPoint electronically. Tamara at the Planning and Zoning Office uploaded it. I just checked a minute or 2 ago, and it is now posted with the rest of the application materials on the town Planning and Zoning website. As an overview, we're looking for coastal site plan review, flood damage prevention application, landfilling and regrading. This work, just about all of it, is well outside the 100-foot exempt area for single-family residences. But I think under the more recent custom in the Planning and Zoning Department, we are here calling this coastal site plan review to get a finding that there's basically no impact or an approval if one is deemed necessary. A very small portion of the pool and pool terrace is in the flood zone A or flood zone AE. And landfilling and regrading is all around the pool and the pool house, and as minor basically as necessary. Most of it is within 25 feet of where we would need a building permit to work, and therefore pretty much exempt. Built into the project, a new stormwater quality system. Being on the open water of the Long Island Sound, we're asking for a waiver of the fresh meadow approach type system. There'll be a new sewer lateral to the town system in Long Neck Point Road. Coastal management features, the main house accessory structures and et cetera are going to be outside flood hazard zones. As I mentioned, just a portion of the pool and the pool terrace are in the, you'll see on the map, in flood zone AE. The plans show, and this is rounded number, but it shows the pool terrace at 14. We're actually doing it at 14.1, which I think is within the rounding factor. What this does is get us 1.2 inches above the 14-foot base flood elevation, which I think is a positive. And it eliminates any question that the patio surface would be underwater during a 100-year storm as a part of the flood zone. Mechanicals, pool equipment outside flood hazard zone. As I mentioned, new connection to the town sewer, which is good for environmental purposes. New stormwater quality system, which didn't exist before. And we do have quite a detailed landscape and planting plan, complete with perspectives of the planting plan, which I don't think you've seen much before, but they're at the end of the presentation. We'll start with the aerial photographs, Long Neck Point. I'm sure you've seen this before. Over here is the site. There's a close-up next. Right here, you can see the adjacent Zangrillo lot to the north is being developed with a house. The proposed project is on this lot outlined in blue. The house is going to be uphill from here, and that's because of the width and this weird zigzag in the property boundary. As you may recall, I don't know if this was a discussion or not during the earlier application, this line is a zigzag so that you could put that minimum square in each of the lots. On the southern lot, which is the one we're talking about tonight, that square is up here and it has a minimum width for this portion. And on the lot to the north, the minimum width and the square fits down in the southern half of the lot. So it's kind of flipped. But right now, this is vacant. There was a tennis court and a few other improvements on this site that were there in conjunction with the old Zangrillo house to the north. This has since been cleared. And a couple of site photos, you can see there's really not much to see. It's pretty much a vacant lot. Zoning location survey, existing conditions. Here's that square I was talking about. It's just a hair under 1 1/3 acres. You can see it's relatively flat toward the east side of the property, up along Long Neck Point, slopes downward toward the water, and then sort of flattens out once you get down to the southern or western part of the property. This broken line is the coastal or CAM line, rather. There's a flood zone. You'll see it more on the site plan. But there's a view easement here, which we're staying out of. This is for the benefit of the property up to the north. Proposed conditions, you'll come in a driveway, generally from the center, about in the center of the site, to the main house, which is here. 2 accessory buildings on either side of this sort of entry courtyard. And then toward the back, you'll have a pool and an underground pool house with the rear or western wall basically opening up at grade so that you walk out to the patio, which is at grade. The pool house is connected to the main house by tunnel. We went to the ZBA a couple of months ago and asked them for an interpretation that would allow us to treat the pool house as an accessory structure, which enables us to locate it in the portion of the lot that's less than the minimum width, and that's what we have here. The ZBA granted that request, and it's not the first time that they did that. There was a property across the street and up a few lots several years ago where pretty much the same thing happened. There was a proposal for 2 structures connected by a tunnel, and they treated each one separately for building height purposes. And the site plan here, I think Doug DeVester, you're here, right? There he is. Do you want to take over and go through these slides and just let me know when you want to flip them to the next?
Do you want me to use my rendering? Might be easier to read.
Well, this is up on the screen instead of changing around, and maybe we can go through this part at least for now.
Sure. Okay. As Bob mentioned, where we were located and all that, one point on this property, it slopes from a high point at Long Neck Point Road to the from west to east, around elevation 31 at Long Point Neck Road down to the seawall around 7.5. There's an existing seawall there with a concrete gutter behind it, and has scuppers that drains the water back out through the seawall. And on the water side of the seawall, there's all riprap in there for protection of the seawall. There is Bob, can you go back to the the existing condition survey?
Sure.
Okay. Okay, if you look at there's catch basins in the front of the, along Neck Point Road, and you'll see a dashed line that goes down and down through by these planters and all the way down to a catch basin. There's an existing 8-inch tile pipe that collects runoff from Long Neck Point Road. It brings it down to a manhole, then it converts to a 12-inch RCP or reinforced concrete pipe that goes through the seawall. And our proposal, okay, now we can go back to my site plan. So what we're proposing to do is to pick up the catch basin, which is right at the entrance of the driveway, and put that into a 12-inch corrugated plastic pipe and move it down parallel to the property line all the way back down to the existing catch basin, and then it will flow back out through the existing 12-inch RCP pipe out through to Long Island Sound. As you can see, the existing pipe would be in the proposed house and studio would be located right where the pipe is located. So we're moving it away from that. What we're proposing to do is collect the first inch of runoff from the impervious surfaces into 3 different subsurface bioretention areas. There's one to the east of the proposed garage that will pick up part of the driveway, and a trench drain located in front of the garage. There's a trench drain located in front of the studio. Will go into another drainage system. The water below the outlet pipe of these bioretention areas is a water quality volume. Anything greater than that will overflow into the piping system that's going to be being relocated, and that will carry it down towards Long Island Sound. And the third one is down below the pool area, and that will pick up the remaining portions of the impervious areas. So that's the location of the drainage systems. Then in terms of erosion controls, we got sedimentation erosion around the outlet, around the property and the construction areas, anywhere down gradient of any cuts and fills areas, any tracking pads along the entranceway, and then the grates of the 2 catch basins will be wrapped with filter fabric and hay bales placed around them during construction. And then just in terms of CAM requirements, there's no inland or tidal wetlands on the property. There's, as Bob mentioned and saw the photographs, it's mostly a lawn area with a few ornamental trees along the southern property line. And as Bob mentioned, there is the coastal flood zone. We have an AE 14 and a BE 15 velocity zone on this property. All site utilities be underground, and then we will connect to the public water system out in Long Neck Point Road, and we also connect to the low pressure system in Long Neck Point Road. That's pretty much it in terms of the site development plan. Any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Just a couple quick questions, Doug. This whole thing is all gravity force, right? The water, because the water's traveling far away from the road all the way to the Long Island Sound. It's just all gravity. It's got the proper pitch and all that.
Correct. Yes. There is my detailed sheet does show the profile of the proposed drain line going down to Long Island Sound. Yes, and it is gravity.
Okay.
Doug, should I pull up that detail sheet?
Sure.
Oh, I got it. I see it.
You see it right there. So on the upper left-hand side, you'll see the upper left-hand side is Long Neck Point Road, and the far right side is the seawall at Long Island Sound, and you can see the profile of the proposed pipe.
Understood. I thought it was backwards. I thought that was a flat surface, not a 3D cutaway. Okay. What else? And those, your bioretention things, those are above grade bioretention rain gardens, right?
No, they're subsurface.
Oh, so they are Cultex.
Correct.
Okay.
They are.
That's what I thought. That's, but you say bioretention. I was assuming bioretention is rain gardens.
Well, it's a subsurface bioretention because we're collecting the water quality volume, so it's bioretention area.
Understood. Do any other commissioners have questions relative to this application? The other thing is, and I don't know if this is for you or not, Bob, there was, the reason why that zigzag is on the bottom all the way to the west is because we split the dock. It was supposed to be a shared dock at one point in time. On the landscaping plan, the dock does show up, which is L1.
Here?
Yeah, no, on this landscaping plan, on your plan,
Okay, all right,
that's not part of this application, right?
right, just within the, correct.
We might see that a year or two from now.
Possibly.
Okay.
If I could just point something out here.
Sure.
As Doug mentioned, there are 3 flood zones here, VE, AE, and X. The VE zone comes in off the water down to this line right here. You can see
Great.
the little hand. And then it converts to A zone up to this line right here. And you'll see it cuts across this little triangular corner of the pool and the little bit of pool structure around the edge of the water. And that's it. That's the only activity proposed in the flood zone A. The way this is mapped, there's really no coastal A zone. The coastal A zone is, in a situation like this, typically is mapped within, but not called out separately, but within the VE zone. So the coastal A is down in this area here. So we don't have to worry about wave action or transitional wave action. That's the story on the flood zones. And because we are right here with this little triangular piece, that's why we're asking for flood damage prevention permit.
Yeah.
Another question.
Since you brought it up, on the landscaping plan, you have a seating area in that section in the VE zone or the velocity zone next to the dock.
Down at the bottom. That's basically a landscape feature. That's something at grade. It's not. I'll let the landscape architect address that.
So is that proposed at this time or no?
Yes. That's
So
just part of landscaping.
The seating area is part of landscaping, but the dock that's next to the seating area on the landscaping plan is not part of the application.
Correct.
Got it.
Correct.
You got that, right?
Yeah, I got that. I have 2 quick questions.
Go ahead, Jeremy.
Bob, can you cover talk a little bit about the proposed cottage, how it meets the setbacks, how it meets the zoning regulations? And the other question I had was whether you think a 2-year approval might be appropriate due to possible supply chain items and COVID and things like that, especially a lot of
Sure.
big project. Go ahead. Those are the 2 questions.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
On
Cottage,
top of that, Bob, just that cottage today has no kitchen, so it's not an ADU.
are you talking about the pool house?
No, the cottage, the guest cottage by the front driveway.
All right, let me make sure I know what you're talking about. The studio,
Yes.
correct.
Go ahead.
That's right. No kitchen. The setbacks are all laid out here on the proposed zoning location survey, so all of that complies. And on the 2 years, I think, given the current situation with building supply shortages and prices being 2 or 3 times what they normally are, and projects being delayed and such, it might be a good idea for the commission to think about 2-year expirations instead of 1-year expirations. Just, you have the discretion to do that, and it avoids applicants having to come in if they're not on time with their project the way they expected at the beginning of the application or their particular design process. That's about what you thought, Jeremy?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, any other questions before we go to the architects?
Any commissioners have any questions? Go ahead, Kara Leahy. I'm
Thank you.
sorry, Kara.
Hi, Bob.
Hi, Kara.
Just because it came up, on the seating area, which appears to be in the VE zone, is that permanent seating or seating that will be placed and can be removed on some sort of like, it looks to me like gravel or stone or some, it looks to be not quite a stone terrace like other places of the plan. So you could just maybe get into just given the zone that it's in, just
Well,
raise for concern.
It's chairs.
Okay.
Can I pass on that for the moment? And
Yeah,
when
sure.
we go through the landscape plan.
Right person. No, that's fine.
You're probably the third person that's got that question. Probably everybody for that matter.
And I'm sorry, last question. And only because I heard, cottage, and then you said, do you mean pool house? So is there proposed to be, and I don't see, but I'm not great. I'm more of a word person, not great at sometimes visual plans, and it takes me a long time to understand them. Will there be a proposed pool house?
Yes.
As well as the cottage and the residence?
Yeah, and we're going to get to that more, so you'll see what they look like. But the studio on the plan right up here,
Cottage, yeah.
that I think is what Jeremy referred to as the cottage.
Yeah, it's called cottage on the landscaping plan. I think maybe that's why I'm saying it too.
Yeah. Okay. And then the pool house is back here. See what says patio? You'll see that little square patio is on top of the pool house. The pool house is below grade, except for the back wall.
Okay.
And connected by a tunnel. You'll see it.
Tunnel.
You won't have the question.
This is all coming back to me.
Yep.
This is all coming back to me. Okay, thank you. That's thank you.
In about 5 minutes, it'll come crystal clear.
Yes, the tunnel. It's all come back to me. Thank you. Okay, done.
Okay, so does anybody have any questions of Bob in general, and then Doug DeVest on the site plan and the survey plans before we get to the next profession, which is a landscape architect?
How about if I just cover for the record, I'm confident there's no blasting anticipated, or we would have heard about it, but if there were any need, or maybe Doug, that there is no such rock and that sort of thing here, but if there were, we'd hear from you again later, right?
I thought I heard the word Doug in there, but
I did.
Anticipate any blast?
As far as I know, there's no exposed ledge rock. I don't believe there's any blasting on the lot, the northern lot. So if there was any blasting required, that would go through the fire marshal.
So to put in the pool in the underground pool house, there's no rock they're gonna have to blast out.
If there is any, have to go through the fire marshal, correct?
Okay.
You know, maybe Jeremy knows this. Was there any blasting for the house on the other lot?
I don't think so. Doug, you might know better, or Mr. Conzi might know better. I'm not familiar with any blasting that went on at 214 Long Neck Point Road for the Studi house, which is not complete.
Okay, but if it's just blasting, it won't come back to the commission. It'll go back to, or it'll go through the fire marshal who licenses the blasting.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. I'm still learning.
Right. Any other commissioners are good for now? All right, let's move on. Jen's good.
Bob
Architectural.
Cardella, with us?
Go ahead, Bob.
Where's Bob Cardello? I see him here. I don't see his, there, his microphone's on.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, all right. All right, you're up. So we can, let me know when you want me to flip the slides over and take it away.
I want to be respectful of the commission's time. Good evening, It's Robert Cardello, Cardello Architects. The renderings, I think, do the best job of probably explaining what the project is in a nutshell. If there are specific questions that I can answer, I'm happy to do so.
No, the house.
This is the front rendering, Bob, so why don't you give us a tour from here?
Okay, obviously coming off of Long Neck, on the right side is a garage that's connected by a covered walkway. On the left side is the studio cottage we were just referring to. And then on center, you see the main house in the distance. And as we discussed, these portions of the development are on the flat section of the property. Directly behind the house, where we have this subterranean pool house, we built the big idea we had here is to create unobstructed views from the house and still tuck this pool house into the grades so that from the house you really won't know it's there. So it was kind of an interesting solution, or our client thought so. So that's sort of with our back to the west, looking back towards the house. So you see the back of the house and the pool house.
It's basically it. If the two architectural perspectives, the landscape perspectives will give us a little more detail. Do you need the floor plans or the elevations or anything? Do you want to just move on to the landscaping? Steve?
I'm good with the elevation that were submitted. There's no real questions. It meets the height setback and the height regulations and all that based on the survey.
Yeah.
So we're all good there. Unless any commissioners have any questions for the architect, I would just move on to the landscaping person.
Okay. Cheryl is here, and Cheryl, you you got the floor, or whatever you call this.
Okay, good evening. My name's Cheryl
Okay, go ahead.
Brown. I'm with James Doyle Design Associates. I'm a licensed landscape architect. And what I'll do is I'll walk you through the plan. We'll start on the east side of the property off of Long Neck. And so what we have on the east side is we have a fence with a hedge behind it and a number of deciduous trees in the center of the property. You saw that in the first rendering. In the architectural drawings, you saw the deciduous trees in front of the parking courtyard area. And then on the north and the south side, what we have is evergreen screening. We thought that it was really important for, privacy for both, homeowners on either side, property owners on either side. So we have a mix of Japanese cedar. We also have junipers and hollies along the north and south side of the property. And we extend that to the view easement. The view easement, we really can't have anything tall growing in there. So we have remained outside of that line with any of the screening. Another thing to note is with the fact that the pool house is subterranean, basically that opened up the opportunity to have a green roof on top of the pool house, reducing some of the impervious surface basically. So we have a mix of lawn as well as grasses and perennials that can deal with the thin soils that you find on a green roof. And lastly, in regards to the plantings along the water, as I stated, we were respecting the view easement. And so what we have is along the perimeter is, again, a mix of grasses and perennials. And in the center would be the mown lawn. But that was to reduce some of the size of the lawn area down there. So we have fairly large beds of grasses and perennials along the edges.
Did I flip to the next?
So here you can see the fence and the hedge that's behind the fence, as well as the alley of deciduous trees that is there upon your approach to the house. On this side, you can see the trees slightly in the background. You can tell that there are evergreens. On the left-hand side, it's probably with all the other trees in front, it's probably a little hard to see, but you can also see the evergreens on the right-hand side, which is the north property line.
Cheryl, if I can interrupt you, you explained to me why these are black and white, and I'm sure the commission's probably wondering. Can you just explain that in a nutshell?
Well, it's when there's color and there's landscape involved. Renderings are fairly realistic, but they do not necessarily depict exactly what we're doing. A lot of times the colors can be quite off. So this kind of gives you a little more of an element of imagination mixed in with what we're looking at, so that, you know, basically people don't get fixated on very pink or red flowers and things like that, or just the, you know, it's more of a broad brush stroke approach to looking at these perspectives.
Okay, next slide.
Again, this is the front. We also do have grasses and perennials and blocks in the front as well, again, to reduce the mowing areas. So you can see that. Also, what you're seeing, the light colored things, those are basically small seeding rocks in a mown area around there. This is the green roof. So some of it is lawn, and as I mentioned, the edges are a mix of grasses and perennials in a light roof mix of soil.
And this strip over here is a sunlight to the...
That's a light well down to the pool house, which is underneath.
And over here is the house next door, approximately?
Yes, yes. And that side of the house has a garage bay door, and that's about it on it. And then this is looking east. So you can see how we have the grasses and perennials on the perimeter. This seating area that we got a question on, basically it's just stones. They're dry laid on some stone dust and gravel. The chairs are totally movable and removable in the event that there's a storm. And if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
I'm good, thank you, I appreciate it. Very nice design, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any commissioner have questions on the landscaping? The seating area is just a bunch of Adirondack chairs sitting by the water.
And Cheryl, what are these flagstones or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, probably like, you know, just irregular shaped stones, you know, 1.5 inches, 2 inches thick. And as I said, they're not concreted in or anything. It would just be laid on gravel and stone dust. It's a pretty soft touch.
Okay.
I would put a putting green there if that was my house, but I think you missed that piece. Any commissioners have any questions on the architecture or landscaping plan? Okay, would anyone from the general public like to speak to this application before we move on?
Steve, can I just run through quickly? I got one more slide with commission comments, and that'll do it.
You got it, sir. Go ahead.
Okay. Agency comments. We did get some feedback. As I mentioned, the Board of Appeals approved our request to treat that subterranean pool house as a separate accessory structure. DEP had two comments of substance. One was to move the pool and the pool terrace from flood zone AE. As you can see from the plan, we're only talking about a little sliver. It does comply with the flood regulations. We're allowed to build houses and structures above ground. This is a pool that'll be at grade, except that the way the grading works out. There's nothing wrong with that under both FEMA and the local regulations. And as I mentioned, the pool and pool house elevation will actually be 1/10 of a foot above 14, which gets us completely out of the flood zone. And the other substantive comment was non-mortared open joint installation above crust stone base, which that's what we're doing for the pool terrace. That takes care of the DEP.
Do we have that letter?
That should be in the record. I know it's on the website.
It's here. Okay, I'll find it. Thank you.
Okay, and then DPW, what Darren's been doing is sending an email. The first 2/3 of it is usually a summary of what the project is, the various elements that he's concerned with. He does mention water quality system. He's recommending test holes, and Doug DeVesta will answer any questions on this, but we will do the test holes and make adjustments to the water quality system as necessary during the construction project process. Stormwater management, he mentions we're asking for the waiver. He mentions a DEEP stormwater management form. That's a new form that DEP came out with under a general permit for drainage. And Doug has already submitted that form. I believe it's in the record, Doug, or I know you said you submitted it.
Yeah, I submitted it to Darren directly, so I'm not sure if it's in the record or not, but it's just the form that Darren's asking for.
If you're wondering what we're talking about, it's a form that gathers data that data regarding stormwater flows from public drainage systems into the Long Island Sound. And during projects, it provides data on the reduction of that flow as an untreated stormwater flow. And it's a way to track improvements to stormwater that's discharged into the Long Island Sound. Is that about right, Doug? I think
Well, yes and no. It's basically where they want us to disconnect any impervious surfaces that goes directly into the town's storm drainage system or into Long Island Sound. They want us to have it treated before it goes in there, whether it's going through a surface biodetention area, subsurface, or going sheet flowing across so many feet of lawn area before it gets into the drainage system in the town or in Long Island Sound.
And they're requiring this on pretty much every significant application now.
That's correct.
And as Doug explained before, we do have water quality for the stormwater that is going to result from the new impervious surfaces on this site, so that we do comply with that sort of unfunded mandate, as Darren calls it. He also asked for an as-built survey. That is typical for projects like this, and we'll be happy to provide one. The last comment was from Public Works, the Health Department, just mentioning that we're connecting to the sanitary sewer system, and that covers all of the comments that we've received. And that completes our presentation. Are there any other questions we haven't addressed?
No, I think we're good. The only thing I want to just add is for the commission's understanding and edification, and also the record, that we have approved patios and pools in flood zones before. If the pool floods and seawater gets in there, that's the homeowner's problem. But that's fine, because that is noted inside the letter from the DEP. George Rago, Jesus, wow. George Riley.
Just out of rank curiosity, the plans for the house are a little tough to read. How many bedrooms are in this house?
That's a Cardello question. Bob, you with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
How many bedrooms?
One. Bear with me for 1 second.
Sure.
One.
This could take a while.
Trying to read the descriptions are pretty tough. Meanwhile, I'll thank Bob Maslin for putting the executor's deed in twice, just to make sure. I had to be sure there was only one that I was supposed to look at here.
There was actually 2 different ones on the land records.
Really?
Well, I'm looking at the pages. I think these 2 are identical. They're both page 304 of 1682. Took me a while to figure that out, but I did.
So there's 4 bedrooms on the second floor, a 5th bedroom is a guest bedroom on the first floor, and the 6th would be the cottage.
Thanks. Okay, I couldn't figure that, but thank you very much. All
Do you have,
set.
Robert, do you have a square footage for the house?
Bob?
Sorry, I don't have it off the top of my head, but it's in the neighborhood of 13,000 square feet. But I'd have to, if it's okay with you, I can
That's
email
okay.
that.
It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Any other commissioners have questions on this application? Carrie, your light is on.
Yeah, I just had, and this may be sort of implicitly answered in the fact that ZBA already approved the pool house. But normally in our regs, how many, and this might be a Jeremy question or a Bob question, I'm sort of agnostic. Either one can answer. How many accessory structures per lot do the regs in this zone permit?
There is no limit.
Okay.
There's no limit.
Okay. Yay. Okay. Consistent answer. That is good.
The significance, though, is in 2 things. In some zones, starting with the half-acre zone, I believe, Jeremy, correct me if I'm wrong, the setbacks for accessory structures are actually less than the minimum setbacks for the main house. So that's one thing. The other thing is, on a project like this or on a property like this, where we have a lot that has its minimum width toward the street,
right,
and less than the minimum width, when you're starting with a new structure, your primary structure has to be built entirely within an area of the lot that is at least the minimum width and minimum depth.
right.
Accessory structures don't have to be built in an area that's the minimum width.
Okay.
And that's why we had to go to ZBA.
Okay.
And the ZBA gave us that interpretation. So I hope that answers your question. Jeremy's right. There is no,
not
that I'm ever going to argue with Jeremy, but.
No, that was actually really helpful because, that was actually really helpful. Thank you, Bob. And I guess just because I am a girl from Long Island who grew up on the water, and so I am keenly kind of like, maybe I'm just, and it's in our plan of conservation development, I am sort of sensitive and have always a keen eye or sort of interest and concern regarding our very unique and valuable coastal resources, and the Long Island Sound, being a Long Island girl originally. And it's hard to take that out of a person.
The waves are bigger down there.
No, it's not so much. No, they are on the other side of Long Island, like substantially bigger. And I'm not going to, on the South Shore, like it's like a whole different story.
That's where I'm from, the South Shore.
Oh, you are? That's where my mom, that's where I'm from too. I guess so. My question is kind of like with the stormwater management treatment, and maybe this is a Doug DeVesta question, is I know it's going to be treated, and then so it's being pumped back out, and this is stormwater, right? It's not like we're being hooked up to sewer, so we're not concerned about that sort of issue, which I think should be, I want to make sure that's clear. But even though we're not disconnecting the impervious areas, there are sufficient receptacles and sort of treatment of any stormwater that is going to be piped then into the Long Island Sound.
To answer your question, yes, we're following the stormwater quality manual for state of Connecticut, and that's handling the first inch of runoff, which is the dirtiest water, and that's from the roof areas, the patios, the driveway, and all that. That's all being collected. There's calculations that I did that demonstrates that the volume below the invert or the flow line of the pipe in the detention systems, the bioretention areas of the Coltex systems can handle that volume. Anything greater than that will overflow into the piping system that we've got in there. Now, the water that's coming off of Long Neck Point Road will not be treated because that's a town road.
That was a pre-existing condition that had nothing to do with this development.
Correct. That's correct.
Thank you. And I will again try to go through. Your reports are often a lot for me. I have to go through them more than once, but thank you. That was really helpful.
Okay, very good.
You just have to read the part that says there's no impact.
There you go. Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, no other questions?
Any other questions from the general public on this application? Okay, seeing none, I would entertain a motion to close. We're good, right, Jeremy?
We're good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone.
You're welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Looking for a motion to close. Carrie Gately made the motion. I think Larry Warble made the second. Yep, there he is. Okay, all those in favor? Thank you. Fantastic. Hearing's closed. Right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Next item up for application is coastal site plan review number 291A is an Apple flood dam prevention application number 407. Land filling and regrading application number 311A is an Apple. John and Charlotte Schuler, 200 Long Neck Point Road. Proposal to construct a pool house, patio areas, and retaining walls with associated filling and regrading and installation of stormwater management, and to perform related site development activities within regulated areas. The 1.55 plus minus acre subject property is on the west side of Long Neck Point Road, approximately a quarter mile south of its intersection with Pear Tree Point Road, and is shown on Assessor's map number 61 as lot number 18C in the R1 zone. Jeremy, what do we got?
Sure, this is a house, I think 2 or 3 properties to the north of the last application. In this case, there's an existing residence, and the proposal here is for a new pool patio, and pool house. I want to bring 2 things to your attention, Commission members. One is right prior to the meeting, I got a handwritten letter from one of the neighbors, John Spain of 194 Long Neck. Please be advised that I support the site plan for approval for John and Charlotte Schuler, signed John Spain. The other is a May 12, 2021 email from State of Connecticut DEP. Again, Jamie Sidoriak, basically similar comments as the last application relative to making sure any patios are open joint, set dry. And she talked a little bit about the riprap discharge. Harry Rocheville, the engineer from the Court Engineering, is here tonight. He did make some changes in the plans relative to that comment from the state DEP. So I'll let Harry take it from here.
So we got those by email today.
Yes.
Yeah, I printed them out at the office, looked at them. Okay, so presenting the application, we have Harry. Harry Rochfeld. There he is. Hey, Harry, welcome back, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Harry Rochfeld, McCourt Engineering, representing the Schulers. We got an existing developed property here at 200 Long Neck Point Road on the west side of Long Neck Point. 2 driveways that lead to the residence. All the proposed development is in the rear yard, which is currently developed with landscaping. I'll zoom in there. Construction access will be along the south portion of the property, which is a pretty clear shot to get to the backyard, with a construction entrance to mitigate any erosion from construction vehicles, and silt fence to protect the neighbors during construction, as well as the Long Island Sound. In addition to the silt fence, we'll have staked hay bales on the downside of the development for additional protection. In the rear right now, there is patios and a spa encompassing this area where my mouse is. So the proposal is to construct a pool house, covered patio, and pool, and additional patio around the pool. Same as the previous application, the flood zone on this property is 14 right here. with the 14 contours right around here. So you'll see all of disturbances now outside of the flood zone, as Jeremy had mentioned. Previously, our outlet structure was further down here to just be out of the way, but once we received the comments from DEP, we thought it would be wise to move it out of the flood zone, so we complied with their comments. For stormwater management, we will be sorry, I'll take a step back. Currently, there's an existing rain garden right here from when this house was built. As part of the P&Z application then, it was put in for water quality purposes. It currently, as far as we can tell, takes the roof leaders from the entire residence and driveway. You'll see there's catch basins, I believe 6 of them through the driveway, and everything drains down from Long Neck Point. So as far as we understand, we're assuming that the entire residence and entire driveway is all routed to this rain garden here. Since we will be disturbing that rain garden, we have sized our water quality detention system to not only provide water quality for the proposed development, the pool house, patio, and pool, but we're also providing the water quality volume that would be required for the residence and driveway as well, since we will be eliminating the rain garden. Runoff from the patio will be captured by strip drains shown here and here for any surface runoff, and then roof leaders will route runoff from the patio and pool house roof to the underground detention system. And as I mentioned, the driveway runoff will also be routed through this existing drain here, and we'll be extending to another yard drain to get into the detention system. And the roof leaders shown here will also be rerouted to that same pipe to the detention system. Overflow outlet here, outside of the flood zone now at elevation 15. It'll be a yard drain with level spreaders on each side of it. We've decided to use the yard drain here because sometimes on these heavily landscaped properties, the level spreaders tend to get lost. So we wanted to make sure that the grate was there just in case anything were to happen. The overflow will still be able to operate. Stockpile area here for any material needed during construction outside of the flood zones. We won't be having any material, temporary or permanent, within the flood zone. Speaking on the other comment from DEP about the patio being able to withstand flood zone and open jointed, the patio is at elevation 24.5, 10 feet above the flood zone elevation. So it's our opinion that as the patio is currently constructed, it'll be okay since it is so far above the flood zone, and we will not be, I guess, taking that comment into our design. But we did move the overflow structure outside of the flood zone as recommended by DEP and Darien. For sanitary, as most of the houses along Neck Point, there's an existing E1 ejector pump that routes to the low pressure sewer in Long Neck Point, shown here. So we will be doing the same thing for the pool house. This was coordinated with Darren, so we will have another E1 pump for the bathroom and sinks in the pool house that will connect to the existing low pressure line that leaves the property. And Darren agreed with that methodology. And then one more thing, to access the pool house, there's sort of a golf cart path here, gravel path, 5 foot wide, just to be able to, I guess, drive your golf cart back to the pool house back there from the driveway. This is the route that Mr. Sula takes to the backyard now, so that'll just be improved to have a path instead of driving over the grass as he does now. Earthwork is mitigated as much as possible, as there's an infinity edge for the pool, so the pool and patio are really designed to work with existing grade, with retaining walls on this side and then the infinity edge and retaining wall on the downside, mitigating the amount of fill that would be required to bring that up to grade. So we're minimizing the earthwork there. That essentially wraps up the development for this one. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, Jeremy's gonna add a couple items.
Harry, tonight and I went to the scooter. You mentioned two things. One was the desire for a 2-year pool in light of problems getting pools constructed and things like that. And she also mentioned that they might not do all aspects of the project all at once. They might do the pool in 1 year and the pool house in another year. So she wanted that mentioned to the commission tonight, a little flexibility in case they decide not to proceed next year and don't proceed with all facets of the development within a year.
Okay, I appreciate that, Jeremy. First time hearing of that, but I appreciate you bringing that up, and I would agree with that approach.
See any other commission members? Public?
Changing. Okay. Do any other commission members have any questions on this application? Inside our plans, inside our package from Doug Vanderhorn, there's the pool house specs. The only thing that's in there is a bathroom, there's a sink, and then a changing room. So there's no bedroom in there. I've seen his design when he builds these things, and it's really cool. But that's relative to the pool house. Any other commissioner questions on the application or the plans? Would anyone in the general public like to speak to this application? Okay, anything else to add, Jeremy?
Nothing.
Harry, you all set on this one?
Yes, all set.
Thank you, sir. With that said, I would entertain a motion to close. I think that's Jen Leahy. Hey, guys, for a second. Gately. All those in favor?
Closing the hearing.
Closing the hearing. Okay, fantastic. Great. Good job, Harry. Don't go too far, Harry. All right, next application. Coastal Site Plan Review number 260A is an apple, 224 LPN, LLC, 224 Long Neck Point Road. Proposal to construct new additions to an existing residence with associated roof covered outdoor areas and fire pit area and perform related site development activities within regulated area, including installation of a new stormwater management system. The 1.82 plus or minus acre subject property is located on the west side of Long Neck Point Road, approximately 0.33 miles south of its intersection with Pear Tree Point Road, shown on Assessor's map number 61 as lot 15 in the R1 zone. Jeremy, what do we got?
Sure. This is also on the west side of Long Neck Point Road, a few doors down from the applications you just heard. What's interesting about this is the state DEP sent an email dated May 13th, and they said, we've reviewed the application, and based on the review, the department has no comments to offer on the work and activities proposed at this time. Of the applications you've seen tonight, this is really the least amount of work. Right now, they're in the process of gutting the house interior, and the proposal tonight is for just some small additions to the rear of the house, which are shown on the plans. So even though the plans look very thick, the amount of work to the exterior is not great relative to some of the other proposals and relative to the size of the house. Darren Alstefine from DPW sent an email dated May 18th. He had pretty minor comments. Again, on this application, they're going to deal with water quality. Harry Rocheville from McCord Engineering is here to explain the application.
Harry, welcome.
Thank you, Jeremy. Happy to be back. 224 Long Neck Point Road, Harry Rocheville, McCord Engineering, for the record, representing the applicants. As Jeremy stated, we have an existing residence here, horseshoe driveway off of Long Neck Point Road, also located on the west side. There's an existing cottage, patio, and pool in the northern portion of the property. The proposed development is to create 3 small additions off the rear, all of these hatched areas, as well as a canopy that will cover the ground surface here where there's existing patios, and there'll be additional patios as well. There's also be a proposed fire pit just down gradient of the house, but it is pretty flat up there, so it's essentially at the same level. Construction access will be up the existing driveway here. Silt fence will encompass the entire development to protect Long Island Sound during construction. As far as we know, there's no stormwater management measures on site now that we could find any evidence of on property or within the town files. We did see there's an existing 6-inch PVC pipe that outlets here in the yard that we would assume to be the roof leaders for the house. For our proposed stormwater management, we will be taking the water quality volume for the entire new proposed canopy, as well as everything on this side of the ridgeline that would drain towards our additions. So we'll also be treating the water from the existing residence as well. And the existing roof leader pipe will remain as is now, but there will be less water going to it since we'll be capturing theoretically some of the water that currently drains to it. The water quality system is shown here, underground detention system. All work here is outside of the flood zone, same flood elevation as the last property, elevation 14. And you'll see the elevation 14 contour right here. So everything is up gradient of that. In addition to our stormwater management, there's also green roofs proposed, which is this different hatch here. So the stormwater will filter through the vegetation on the green roofs, get piped via roof leaders to our system, and then get cleaned again before it infiltrates to the ground, or in an extreme storm event overflows from the grate here, where it will run off to the Long Island Sound, as the rest of the property does now, through a pretty vast lawn all the way down, as we are more than 100 feet to the seawall. There's a new staircase down here to enter the basement, so we're showing a yard drain here that'll outlet via daylight just before the flood zone. Very small area. We don't anticipate that there'll be much runoff here, but just to get it out get any runoff that pools in this area out, we have gravity flow, so no pumps required for that. Pretty straightforward project, and that pretty much wraps up my description. I would be happy to answer any questions.
Sounds good. Thank you. Any commissioners have any questions on this one? The pool's existing, the cottage is existing, the patio's existing, the house is existing. We're just adding fire pits in the chimney, and some cool stuff in the backyard. Right? I don't see anyone saying, Jen's saying no. Would anybody in the general public like to speak to this application? I hate when I sludge. Looks like we're good. Kara's still flipping through stuff. George is flipping through stuff. Okay. With that said, looking for a motion to close from Larry Warble. There he is. Motion to close. Looking for a second. Jim Rand. Jim Rand's got a second. Okay. All those in favor?
Hearing's closed.
Hearing's closed. Thanks, Harry. Good job, man.
Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
You're welcome, sir. Appreciate it. All right, that ends our public hearing for tonight. Is that right? Yep. Yeah, that ends our public hearing for tonight. Now we're going to go into the general meeting. We have a couple of decisions to go over. Let me get change my stuff here. Okay. The first item we have deliberations and possible decisions on the following. Coastal Site Plan Review number 355, Land Filling Regrading Application number 500, Gonzalo and Melissa. I apologize, I can't pronounce the last name. Escajadillo at 94 5 Mile River Road. We saw this one a week ago, right? A couple weeks ago?
Yes, the hearing was May 25th, which was last Tuesday. Fred and I tried to turn those around pretty quickly.
Yeah, we have a couple of those. So we heard this last Tuesday. It was a pretty straightforward application. So Jeremy and Fred took the liberty to draft up a proposal for us to keep the ball moving and the line moving forward. Okay, Doug DeVester presented it. What were they doing on this one, Jeremy?
This was demolish the existing one-story house, replace it with a house which is on an angle, pool in the backyard. You may recall there was substantial landscaping, very little lawn as part of this proposal.
That's right.
It's on the west side of 5 Mile River Road, so it doesn't really have any water frontage.
Right.
New spa, pool in the backyard. Property drains north to south. There was no members of the public at the that spoke on the application, so I don't
Right.
think there's any blasting.
The
as
big,
part of this.
yeah, the big thing was the small lawn. They don't have,
Yeah.
they don't have any lacrosse players.
It's in the bottom third of the watershed, so you're just dealing with water quality. And it was a pretty straightforward draft resolution.
Great, thank you. Questions, comments, typos, scrivener's errors from my friend George Riley? Nothing? Fred's getting good at these, Jeremy's getting great at these things. It's kind of easy. With that said, looking for a motion to approve as submitted or as drafted. George Riley, seconded by Jennifer Leahy. All those in favor? Fantastic.
Everyone was at the hearing last
Everyone's
week, if
at
I
the hearing,
recall. Yeah.
There we go, approved. Okay,
I
fantastic.
was not at the hearing, but I did listen to it and I drove by the property.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kara.
Way to go, Kara. Working overtime. All right, next one we have up is flood damage prevention application number 406, Daniel and Jennifer Anderson, 19 Holly Lane. This is Mr. Anderson, or I think he might be even Captain Anderson, Chief Anderson from the fire department, is putting in a pool in his backyard. The only real comment we had, his back door neighbor, a nice elderly woman, wants to make sure the fence is good enough for her. And Dan said that he was going to take care of the fence with Mrs. in her backyard, Mrs. Lockhart in the backyard. Pretty straightforward pool in the backyard. It was in, the reason why we saw it because it was in a flood zone. And that's where there's the other house on the same street has the same issues. Questions, comments, errors, typos, scrivener's errors? Is that right? Scrivener's errors? Pretty straightforward. And I'm sure Dan Anderson will definitely work with his backdoor neighbor because he is a gentleman and make sure she gets the fence that she wants. With that said, any questions, coming? Nothing? Looking for a motion to approve as submitted. I think that's Kara Gately just made it. Jennifer Leahy just seconded it. There we go. All in favor?
6-0, and this one, Kara also listened to the tape on this one.
Fantastic.
Remember, I'm recused on this one.
You're recused on this one. Larry was out.
Larry was out.
Larry marks in the parade. But watch, so did Anderson march in the parade.
Okay, so it's this one. Yep. Okay.
So it's 5 to 0 to 1. Okay.
Larry recused.
Next item we have is land filling regrading application number 501, 93 Old Kings Properties LLC at 93 Old Kings Highway South. Okay, it's another new driveway and to construct some walls. What was this one again, Jeremy?
This was some regrading. The house is now under construction. You may recall that the work is relative to the driveway and in the backyard. The adjacent properties kind of, at least two of them flow into this property. Wanted to make sure the rain garden was lower than the adjacent property on this one. And I think that's reflected in paragraph 3. We talked about that. It's about 10 truckloads. Only one member of the public spoke. You may recall her concern was the rain garden. Tree protection, the silver maple tree, that's condition D on page 3.
Right, she wanted to make sure the rain garden was deep enough that it was going to overflow to her house.
Right,
Yeah,
and then
we
the
pointed that out.
tree protection.
And
So
Wayne Devonza was our engineer.
the engineer on that, yes.
Fantastic. Questions, comments, scrivener's errors, typos? Okay, fantastic. With that said, Jim Rand, was that a motion to approve as submitted? Yep. Jim Rand made the motion. Jennifer Leahy seconded. Okay. All in favor? Fantastic. 6-0.
Yeah,
Great.
because Kara got caught up.
Kara got caught up on that one also. All right.
Okay.
That's done. Next, deliberations only on the following matter, time permitting. Okay, proposed amendments to the Darien Zoning Regulations, COZR number 2-2021, put forth by Jeffery Brown at 26 Peach Hill Road. Okay, this is the proposed amendment to the zoning regulation that would facilitate the possibility to temporarily have an accessory dwelling, an accessory structure. It's not a dwelling.
Well, temporarily, two structures on one house while there's construction going on. You may recall, as part of the record, Wilder Gleason submitted a number of prior ZBA variances, many of which were denials, but it shows that this type of request used to occur about once a year. Also for the record was, we referred it to Westcog, State DEP, and Wilder went through a number of proposed changes to sections 331 and 405 of the regulations. You may recall that Mr. Hardy and his attorney, Mr. Hollister, had a number of comments and concerns about the proposed zoning regulation amendment. But I know at the first hearing, there was a question about the minimum size. I think as Attorney Gleason's proposal talked about a half acre, and the commission talked about the possibility of changing that number slightly to ensure that there's enough, I'll call it, room for construction, the people to live, safety, things like that. But so there were a number of questions about that aspect of the proposal, especially certainly, I think everyone was, or the sense I got, was relative to the special permit. The commission would still see such a proposal as part of the special permit review. So I guess that's all.
So the first thing is the zoning amendment. Right.
That's really the first part of this. And then if the commission is inclined to approve the zoning regulation amendment, we can then talk about the special permit proposal put forth by Mr. Brown.
Great. So this text change to our zoning regulations would be subject to a special permit, and that has to be granted, and that has to do with traffic and whatnot. My proposal was a little bit in contrast to what Jennifer Leahy asked for, because this is a 2-acre lot, right? This is particularly a 2-acre lot, and you'd have an accessory dwelling unit, and they want to make sure the minimum lot size to build on its extra is a half an acre. So you could do this same thing in a 1-acre zone. If you have one house on half the lot, another house on another half the lot, that's half an acre use, because half plus half equals 1. I think back when we first saw the application, Jennifer said that she had experience in Greenwich, where they built 2 houses on a 1-acre lot, so it was a half acre each. So she and I were kind of in contrast, which is fine. That's the way it goes. So that's the one aspect. But first, this is an accessory unit. It's not an accessory dwelling unit. If the town or if the state does approve accessory dwelling units, this whole thing might end up being moot anyway, correct?
That's correct, because the proposal in Hartford, which I think was touched on a little bit during the hearing, would require towns to allow accessory dwelling units unless they vote to opt out of that provision. So you're correct that that could change in a little while. I don't know the details of that statute.
Right, we're gonna get to that.
But certainly you have to deal with the proposal before you at least start deliberating, because there's really a 65-day window from the close of the hearing to make a decision, and the hearing closed last week. So 7 days in, and at least starting to kick around where the commission's coming from on this.
Okay, so let's start at the top. Jim Rand, any questions on this or thoughts on this zoning amendment change? You're muted, so Jim. Jim, you're muted.
I think it's a good thing he's muted.
You can read my lips, right?
Yeah, we sure can.
I'm persuaded by the argument that if the town can do it, some upstanding landowner ought to be entitled to take advantage of basically the same process.
Great. Okay. Jennifer Leahy, you want to go next? You're muted.
Yeah, I second what Jim says.
That was simple. Okay.
I mean,
If you remember,
I've said my opinion before, and I think that if the town can do it, if other towns can do it, it's also fair. I think it's in light of these fair housing coming down, right? This could be a moot point. And also, if you think about it, isn't it sort of more fair if there is a space available and it's not a safety issue? This particular safety issues came up because it's the topography, the way it's shaped, right? But if it can be done, then you're saving that person rent and other things that also is costly. So I feel like this may be a moot point coming down the line very soon. But in the meantime, I think even for us, for anyone, it's, not having to pay double if you have the space and the ability to do it on your own land. It's your land, and I think you should be able to do it.
do you, relative to you and I being in a little bit of a disagreement, do you feel strongly about the half acre extra available? I mean, would you be opposed to change that to 3/4 of an acre?
You mean like not allowing 1 acre, but you're saying since I like 1, you'd like 2 and splitting the difference kind of thing?
Correct. But you were a half, I was 1, go 75.
Yeah, we both know that like what zone is like the 1.5 acre zone.
No, but I think we have a half acre. It's because this will be allowed. You can do it in a 2 acre zone, and this is a 2 acre piece of property. It gets a little bit dicey when you make it smaller. Like you could never build 2 houses in my neighborhood, which is a third of an acre.
This is an equity.
So that's why I'm just trying to
I
raise
still
the
think 1 acre is a large. I want to be there for you to split the difference, but I think 1 acre is plenty big because I've seen it done. Again, there's experts that would also be able to, well, I guess right now it'd be, you're still coming for approval anyway, right? So if there was a major safety issue or wetlands or something that wouldn't allow for this, we would already have that ability to vote in that way, right? I mean, isn't that right, Jeremy? Like if there's wetlands on half the property or half the other side of the property, I don't think we would be able to approve it anyway.
Right, there would still be subject to a special permit provision, which allows you to review the standards in section 1005, which we could potentially be getting to shortly, traffic, et cetera, et cetera. So there would be an opportunity for you to review situations such as this.
I guess my concern is, right, we considered draft regulations, draft amendments to our zoning regulations regarding ADUs, and they were well thought out. And this is a theme I bring up all the time, which is applicant-specific reg changes when we have regulations that were, well thought out with a bird's eye view to the town, and we know how to make amendments and revise our regulations and different zoning considerations that we have when we think it's appropriate and we need to. And I think doing an applicant by applicant revision of the regulations because they can't get a variance is not really good regulatory policy. So I would just start by saying that, but I do want to make clear that I am fully supportive of accessory dwelling units. And I think that's an important change. This to me is not really about accessory dwelling units. This is about a specific homeowner who can't get a variance for what they want to do. And so they came up with this plan B. And I don't, that sort of to me is not the right way to revise your regs. I think it's unfortunate that the state of Connecticut has such a high case law precedent standard for what is necessary to meet, to the standard that needs to be met, and the case law out there regarding hardship that is sufficient for a variance. I just don't know if it's good regulatory policy to change your regs based on that, right? But I am in favor of accessory dwelling units. I guess my other concern is right, this is specific to temporary accessory dwelling units. And then how does that proposal interface with our recently considered revisions regarding accessory dwelling units? And have we done an analysis on whether there are conflicts among the two, proposed revisions, given that there's such a overlap in what they're attempting to do, but they're shade different. And then, of course, I do agree, if we are going to allow temporary additional dwelling units, not permanent ones, right? This would be a temporary accessory dwelling unit on a single lot. In certain zones, I do think there's an equity issue if we allow it in the larger zones, but not in the smaller zones where maybe affordability and money to spend on renting a second home is actually more of an issue. So I think we need to consider equity when we think about doing this, because allowing it in certain zones and not in others, to me, poses an equity issue within town and treating different landowners and different constituents differently.
Okay. Larry Warble, questions, comments, thoughts?
Yeah, I think Jennifer summarized very well the way I'm thinking on this. If we're going by size, I forgot which of you is on which one, but I think 0.5 is fine.
It's a half-acre lot. The proposal right now is to do this on half-acre lots or greater.
Right. So 0.5 is the way I say half.
Correct.
And so I'm fine with that. And I think we have regulations that to somewhat address Kara's point. I think we find when we come across regulations that aren't serving us well, my general feeling about regulations is any day I kill a regulation, it's a good day. So
what do you say?
So it's these people's own property, and as long as there's no safety issues, it's their property. We shouldn't be getting in the way of the people doing with their property what they can, as long as they're not impacting other people in their own property. And I think that's so.
Would we still
general summary? I'm in favor here.
So is there a way to look at this proposed reg change and what we've proposed regarding ADUs and make sure that they're aligned, don't conflict?
We haven't done the ADU proposal yet.
I know, but we have a draft.
No, we don't.
We were
in the town of Darien?
No, we have a draft that we circulated and reviewed.
No, not for ADUs. We haven't touched on that one yet.
We didn't? Okay, I thought we did.
We did parking, we did unit size and
inclusionary zoning.
Inclusionary zoning. The fourth one is on the list is ADUs.
I thought we had something on the table for, maybe I'm just getting confused with the proposed regulation. But I think it makes sense to, like, if we're going to do this, make it just not, if we're going to do this and there's the, legislation that has, that is likely going to be passed regarding ADUs, I think we should just,
make sure we're moving in the same.
Yeah, make sure it's consistent and that, we're kind of just going, I don't know, just go the full.
Right. Relative to the ADU proposal, we haven't drafted it yet. There's nothing been drafted, but the working knowledge that these guys are researching is that we would potentially allow ADUs in 2-acre zones and in 1-acre zones. Right.
But then the bill out of Hartford.
Right. We have not dropped it down to half-acre zones, which is what this is. Right.
But what does the proposed bill in Hartford allow?
Bill, it's an opt-in, opt-out provision. We haven't decided about that yet, and that's legislative. Goes to the RTM, but
just take that. Let's take the opt-in, opt-out out.
Correct.
And just
what's the size? What's the size? It's everything, right?
I don't know if I have that one here.
Yeah, that's the state regulation. Like Greenwich Greenwich does not allow them in like quarter acre zones. I don't know what Greenwich allows in third acre or half
I just
acre.
want to make sure that if we're like, rather than sort of being specific to like, we should just look at this in a more fulsome way, and given the legislation that is likely to be signed by the governor, and right, there may be an opt-in, opt-out, but let's sort of look at it in a wholesome way. And if we're going to allow temporary ADUs or like, let's just.
Right. I agree with you, Kara. We need to be consistent. I don't want to keep coming back and changing the regs over and over.
That's
And so similar to what we talked about earlier on parking, we talked about multifamily parking relative to the Parkland's proposal to change the regulations. Similarly here, we kind of want to make sure we're not going in two different directions.
That's exactly my
And so
point.
I think that's essential to figure that out.
Yep.
Looking at this proposal, getting a sense from what the commission wants to do tonight, and then we can, as we look at what Wilder's put forth and the comments and feedback we get, is making sure we're consistent.
Yeah. Let's hear from George. Let's hear from George Riley for a second. Is that okay, Kara?
Yeah, that's fine.
Go ahead, George.
So I think it's relevant to the discussion of ADUs to highlight the language that this would allow temporary owner occupancy of an existing single-family dwelling. So you can't bring in or build another dwelling unit except the one that is subject of the permit to build a new home. And so I don't really see that as an ADU, because they're going to have to move out of one house and move into the other one when it is completed. And I like the fact that there is, of course, an endpoint for the permit to build, because I wouldn't want folks lingering forever in such a temporary occupancy. And I got a little confused earlier when the chairman was talking about how if you had an acre zone, you'd be building on half an acre, or you'd have 2 half acres to build on or whatever. I'm not sure that really applies. I don't see any limitation here to that. This permits building on lots greater than or equal to half an acre. You may use only a tenth of that, where 20% is your coverage limit, right? So whatever that is in the half acre zone, I think you're going to have a hard time building on a half acre a second home. I mean, while you're still have one, I just for transit purposes on the sides of the house, I'm familiar with half acre zones. I think you'd have a hard time. But if you want to come in and make the pitch that you can do it, I wouldn't stop anybody from doing that. So all around, I favor this proposal as written.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll start drafting over the next couple weeks. This is certainly nothing we want to rush into, but we want to try to get it right. So we'll come back to this in 3 weeks, 4 weeks, late June.
Kara, did I cut you off? Did you want to add anything else?
I don't think so. I think the only thing I want to add was that if we are going to have, if say taking out the opt-in, opt-out, but there is going to be some sort of requirement based on newly, if it gets signed legislation that, will require adoption or allowance of ADUs. And then these temporary, whether we call them accessory dwelling units or temporary dwelling, multiple proposed dwelling units or residential dwellings on a single lot, which I think, right, because we're going to deal with that section of our regs, which, only permits one residential dwelling unit per lot. Will there be a special permit required for these temporary, say if we do the 2 routes where there's going to be ADUs, which may or may not be as a right, and then temporary allowance of more than one residential structure or proposed structure on a lot, will those require special permits? Because I think that probably is important and not as a right, even though, Larry, I know it's annoying to like put all these extra and Jen requirements and regulations on people. I do think, and I think this property in particular sort of highlights that there are sort of unique and there's particular things with different lots and areas in town, given our wetlands and water table issues and some of these, flag-shaped lots that, that may pose different issues that other, sort of more square, normal vanilla lots wouldn't propose.
Okay. we'll start to draft something up. We can readdress the lot size, and I think depending on when we look at it, we might have more understanding what's going on with the state regulation bills and where it is, what lots it fits in. Okay, do you want to talk about the next one now?
You want to hold off on
I want to
that?
hold off on that.
Let's hold off on that.
Yeah, because
Okay.
it doesn't make any sense. They're connected, but you got to get past A before you even get to B.
Okay, we
Okay.
we can come back to that on future meeting.
Right, so the next item on the agenda, which is special permit application number 320, Jeffery Brown, 20 Peach Hill Road. We're not going to really discuss that tonight because we didn't finish the deliberation of the first piece. We're just deliberating for the first time. Okay. Next item on the agenda is chairman's report. The only thing that I want to do, I traded emails and conversations back and forth with Matt Blumenthal and with
Terry
Wood to give us a synopsis of what happened with the, I think it's Bill
6107, I believe.
6107, something like that. Terry Wood wrote up a document which I saw it, I saw it, but I didn't see it, to be honest with you, of what the highlights of the bill are. She said that she's very familiar with it. So what I wanted to do is invite her and also Matt Blumenthal to a meeting. We do not have a meeting on June 16th. 15th. So what I wanted to do was add a special meeting on June 15th. And Terry Wood be there and Matt Blumenthal would also be invited. At this point in time, I wasn't going to really invite, I don't know if you need them, it's up to you guys to think about too. Bob Duff and Patricia Billy Miller, because it came through the House. What at the end of the day, what the goal is to have them explain to us of what the bill is. When I saw it, it was the amendment packet and it was dropped and it's signed again. Whether it gets signed into law by the governor tomorrow, the next day, somebody's got to explain to us. These guys voted on it and approved it or disapproved it. So I want to go to me. So the question to you is, would anybody be opposed to adding a special meeting on June 15th? And this would be the only item on the agenda. I even think that I'm going to zoom in from wherever I am in Zoom land. And Jeremy hopefully gets to zoom in from his house too.
That's
Question.
a Thursday, I would highlight. It's a Thursday.
That's supposed to 15th, it should be,
That's
right?
middle school
The night
graduate.
before school is over?
What's that?
The night before school's over?
I think that's
Yeah.
middle school graduation.
No, I don't want that. I'm sorry. Can I be honest? Can anyone else have the same feeling? We've been, I mean, like,
Tuesday,
Yeah.
not a.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, if we're gonna do it, we just need a quorum. And everyone
can we
can
just
watch
do
it.
it on the day that we have a meeting? Like, these are,
It's June 15th is a Tuesday, but
Right.
that's Middlesex Middle School graduation.
Right, so you go an after party after the graduation?
Well, it's my son's graduation. I mean, what am I
No,
gonna
I
do?
got you. My kids graduate the next day from high school.
then I'll go if Kara can't. Obviously, Kara's not coming on to this, the night of her son's graduation. I'll be happy.
No, Jen, I don't want to make you go. I mean,
No, but I'm just saying, can we add this onto a meeting? I mean, it's 9:35. If I had to stay up an extra 25 minutes on the night that I'm already staying up, right?
Well, this is the meeting, the next meeting we have is the 8th. The legislative session doesn't end to the 9th. So these guys, our senators and representatives can't make it on the 8th. Then there's the 15th where we don't have it scheduled. The 22nd does not work for Terry Wood. So then you're pushing it into
do it the
July.
5th. I just won't be there. Which is fine. I can, I'm sure.
Because I
agree
mean,
that. Well,
I
and
don't
it'll-
envision, I don't envision any of us talking, to be honest with
no,
you.
so just saying, I can read it.
So then keep it on the 15th.
Otherwise, we can look forward to watching the video. I'm sure it'll be very exciting.
I actually think it will be. The Terry.
I have to comment, Mr. Chairman, that
Yes,
the
sir.
Senate plays an equal and important role in passing this legislation. So to say that we should only hear from the House members because they're the ones who passed it last or whatever, really doesn't make sense.
No, you're right. I don't
Do you
disagree
want to
with you,
schedule
George.
that?
I don't disagree with you, George. I guess where the idea started with me, and it started with me as soon as the day after the thing was passed by the House. I said I want someone to explain it to us, and then I didn't know who was how let's say works with. We can wait till we get all four of them together. We can get one of them to get four people in the room with four of us, Jeremy and or Fred. Doesn't seem to be the easiest thing in the world. I would like at least two.
Would it be correct that if we had Matt here and Terry here, we'd have one proponent and one opponent?
That I know for a fact that Terry voted against it, and I know for a fact that Matt voted for it.
Yeah.
I also know that one of them,
that issue as to interpretation of what was passed.
right, and one of them's one that it matters. I mean, I think I've stood on the soapbox is saying that planning zoning is bipartisan, but one's a Democrat, one's a Republican. I'm trying to treat everybody equal. I do not want to get into any political discussions about anything. It's fact finding. It's not about politics, that's for sure.
I don't think it'd be a bad thing to let a little more time pass and let the dust settle and let somebody write a scholarly paper on it or something, journalists or somebody. Won't be effective until October 1. So if we got into it in September, that would be adequate time, seems to me.
Try to find a date in June, July, August.
I think if they're willing to go, I would
June.
hear them.
We went through June.
Yeah, we can.
Then it goes to July.
Yeah.
And then it goes.
If everyone says it's a 45-minute thing, maybe we'll just try to find a night that they're 45 minutes. We could do that. A short meeting, maybe where
it's up to you guys.
Yeah,
I mean, I'd like to do it sooner than later to find out what this whole thing says. First, wait until.
I think as soon as practicable would be a great thing.
Jim, you have any thoughts on this? Jim Ryan? You're muted, sir.
Sounds like.
That was intentional. That one was. It doesn't have to be on a meeting, on a night where we have a meeting. I mean, I'll invite everybody to dinner on a Thursday night in a week.
Where are we going?
Where do you want to go?
Your house. I want to go to your house. That's awesome.
I mean, it's.
Remember, that makes a meeting.
I should have left my mic on mute, shouldn't I? But I mean, that's my thought. If this is important, it's going to take us 45 minutes or 25 minutes or whatever. And if buying everybody a couple of drinks and a burger makes it easier to get people to attend, I'll stand up for that.
Okay, so.
I don't want to make it seem like I don't want to attend. I do, just that night, and I'm sure my son would be happy to get rid of me, by the way. But he finds me as annoying as probably everyone else does. But I do. I think if our public, if our elected officials in Hartford are willing to come talk to us, and it's a public meeting that is recorded, that
it's not a public. It's a general meeting item, not a public hearing.
Right, but aren't general meetings?
Yes.
But right, so the public can hear that, and I think any opportunity where the public can hear their local officials speak on legislation that was very closely followed and sort of elicited a lot of emotional and vocal opposition and support. I think we should be really thankful and grateful that they're willing to speak to us on both sides of the aisle. And I think having both sides of the aisle, I think that's really admirable. And I think we should avail ourselves of that opportunity. And thank you, Chairman Albani, for sort of orchestrating or trying to put pen to paper on that. But I think that's great. And that's right, what kind of some of the issues that came about in the debate over this legislation was, local officials. And that's the beauty of sort of local control and local government. So I think that's important. And yeah.
Let me ask this, right? There's two questions then. Is sooner or later is the first question. And then the second question is 2 people or 4 people? Because, right now I pulled a date out of the sky, and I know 1 or 1.5 people can make it, and we can get 4 of us, so it ends up being a meeting. If we want to get all 4 of our elected officials, and maybe like a Jamie Stevenson, who is a ex officio member, then you got to get on 9 people's schedule. And then I'm going to opt out and have Fred coordinate it. And if you want to push it to, August, not August, September or July, then you're pushing it out. The only thing that I want to do is, I don't know when we're going to get into the ADU discussion, but I would like to hear their ADU version of it before we get into our ADU.
I would too.
Yeah, I would too.
The other piece of the puzzle is like I said, I haven't read the bill. I don't really know anybody that's read the bill backwards and forwards yet either. And I didn't vote on it, and those guys did. I do know that to get the bill, the opt-in out provision has to go to the Darien RTM. And for us to either opt in or to us to opt out, it's a 2/3 vote of the RTM. So what my thinking in my brain is right now is that the Planning Zoning Commission is going to make their recommendation, right? Then it's going to go to the PZ&H people, and they're going to make their recommendation. Then it goes to the floor of the RTM. So me personally, I'd like to get this done sooner than later. So someone explain it to me.
I think the selectmen also get a vote.
Yeah, I want to check on that, whether the commission just do it and say, you know what, we're opting in. We're the commission, we make the rules, we're going ahead. We're not asking for your opinion whether we're opting out.
Yeah, I heard.
So
I was told that the document says it's 2/3
to get out.
2/3 majority
To get out.
to get out.
I'll reread it.
Okay. See, I don't know. That's why I'd rather get someone to explain to us sooner than later. Because
if there's a partisan RTM, there's some specification regarding how your town's RTM is set up, which determines if then instead of an RTM, it goes to the Board of Selectmen. And it's either if it's bipartisan or partisan, but I think for most towns, it will be the RTM.
Yep.
And
it's called a legislative body, as I was told what it is. But I care about our town. In our town, legislative body is RTM. I could give a hoot about Brooklyn, Connecticut. And I don't know what different legislative body is. So that's the 2 questions. You want to do it sooner than later? Everyone for sooner, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Everyone say later, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right. Everyone for 2 people, say aye.
As many as we can get. If it's only 2, then 2 is great.
Everyone say 4 people. Good.
I would invite all 4. Whoever can make it makes it.
Yeah,
we
we
That's
can't.
what I would invite all 4, but I would not only do it with a minimum of 2.
Yes.
And what George said, or what you said.
All right. All right. So, and right now we'll start with June 15th, but maybe we can make it June the Thursday of June 17th. So Kara doesn't miss her thing. We can't do it.
It's fine.
I can Wednesday. That's high school graduation. The Thursday.
All right, then you're pushing into the high school graduation.
Yeah, me. I tell you right now, I'll be with Larry on high school graduation night.
Wait, when's high school graduation?
Wednesday.
So what about Monday? Or what, did you already talk to Terry and?
No, they can do the 15th, so that's fine. I can watch it.
Well, you'll get to watch the cake, Kara.
I can watch
I'll
it.
come over with the burger, and I'll watch the cookie.
Yeah.
But Jim's still buying. So
If we all go to,
you're still buying.
Jim Rand's house and Zoom from his house, is that legal?
Perfect. Yeah. Jim Rand wants more Kara Gately.
You open the door, man.
I'll walk right.
All right. Next thing. So that we beat that to death. Fred, you're gonna help me out with this tomorrow, coordinating this whole email
I think
stuff.
it's a great idea. And I think it's great that Matt and Terry we're able to
Matt
like,
has a committee. Matt gave me his personal phone number so I can get a hold of him to ask him the question. And
I think that's great.
It's awesome.
You fix the traffic ticket now?
all right. Next item on the agenda is approval of minutes from April 20th. We punted these last time. It was the Norotan Presbyterian application. Yeah, I'm trying to get out of here by 10 o'clock. These things are going way.
It's almost built.
Okay.
A house on Morley Lane, deliberations for 7-Eleven. Geez, did we read those again? Those are good. We did it on here, BMW for Kalari thing. Board of Selectmen, Highland Farm. Questions, comments, typos, scrivener's errors. George Riley always goes first.
Oh, well, especially because it's quoting me. On the third page, under the general meeting, the second paragraph under the general meeting, he noted that a reduction in number of fueling positions would all the site to operate more efficiently. I think in lieu of all, I would insert permit.
Page 3.
Got it. Thanks, George. Got it.
Okay. Mr.
I did have
Riley,
one other comment a little later on.
Miss Gately, do you like your quote? And Larry and Jen, do you like your quotes?
That's fine.
That was fine.
I assume it's mine.
Yeah.
Fine.
Okay. What's your other item, George?
So on page 5 of 6, top paragraph, Riley opined the car wash on the site should not begin operation until at least 8 a.m. But I think also I commented, and I think several other members commented, that we did not really want all the mitigation measures that have been agreed upon by the applicant and the neighbor to become a baseline for future special permit applications. I mean, we thought that these folks really went,
Oh,
I don't know
BMW.
about above and beyond, but they went to great lengths. So
Right.
I was just would add a sentence that says, several members commented that the mitigation measures should not be taken as the baseline for future special permit applications.
Yeah, I think Larry Warble echoed that sentiment, and I know that I agreed that they went above and beyond.
Of course, these are minutes, so we should be reflecting what was actually said, and I think it would, whether Larry said it at this meeting or a subsequent meeting is not entirely clear in my head, but anyway.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, George.
Any other comments relative to these minutes?
Okay.
With that said, want to entertain a motion to approve the minutes as amended? Eric Gately approved it, George seconded it. All in favor? Okay, aye.
6-0. Thank you.
Okay. Next up, any other business requires 2/3 votes on the commission?
No other business.
No other business, so there's no other commission. Next meeting is July 8th, June 8th, which is next week. And then June 15th is the proposed time for the special meeting.
Okay.
Where all we just need is a quorum to have the meeting. It's going to only be a general meeting. And I think everybody's going to zoom in from Tim Rain's house. Okay.
I do plan to attend. I can on the 15th, so I plan to attend. If I can.
I bet you
In
Nick
that
will
case,
not.
I'll get a keg.
There you go.
I'll send you my particular requirements, Jim.
While we're doing attendance, I probably won't be able to make next Tuesday, the 8th.
Got it. Thank
Okay.
you, Larry.
Thank you. All right, that's it from the chief stand. Looking for a motion to adjourn.
George Riley.
George Riley made the motion. Larry Wall makes the second. And Jim Moran waves goodbye. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Well done.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.